Yeah, there you go. I'm just going to, hold on a minute. Oh, that's as low as it goes. So today's podcast is amazing. I'm super excited. I also have the other host, the other main host, my daughter.
We're all
Jade.
just hosts at this point.
Yeah,
of.
it's a family. I think Bianca said it best. It's a family affair.
It is. That is true. Family
So
affair.
with that said, speaking of Bianca, I have the Bianca from Talent Direct. And with that said, I'm going to let you, because not that I'm putting you on the spot to introduce yourself, but you have been doing so many things, from Women in the Film and the Commission and all that. Why don't you tell everybody, or tell me especially, what capacities you're serving in, more than just an agency? Like, give me and then we'll go into the history of how you got in the business. And I think people are going to find it fascinating.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Bianka Krausch. I'm the owner of Talent Direct Agency. We've been around for about 18 years now. Also the South Florida branch co-chair for Women in Film and Television. As of 2024, we're also board members. And then I'm the unofficial South Florida chair for Film Florida as well. So we're in charge of creating networking events for Film Florida. We do so twice a year on a on a big scale. We usually Flip hosts the one, and then we do a studio tour or something along those lines for the other. Usually we have about 150 people in attendance for each event. So they're good sized events considering we just started doing this. And then for WIFT, we're also in charge of creating networking events, workshops, studio tours, really anything that can facilitate education, networking, community in our industry. That's what we get into.
And that's the key. This industry, if everybody may be a director or a writer, and you're just kind of on your laptop or something, but it is such a collaborative space. And the people they're the ones that make the project with you. Mm-hmm. So I always explain to everybody, this is a very, it takes a village, right, to make a movie or a project or something like that. And that being said, it's so important to know who's in your community, who you can reach out to. And
yeah, very much a connections-based industry for sure.
I think we have the longest hours of all the industries, like with people together. So if you're going to spend 20 hours a day on set, you want to be with someone you know, trust, and like. Mm-hmm. So, and the way I always explain it is like we're all puzzle pieces of like a large puzzle. So if two pieces don't work, the puzzle is not complete. So there are two things that you want to do here. Number one, you want to work with people who are good. And then number two, you actually want to work with people that you like to work with.
Yeah, that you can get along with.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, we've never all been on sets where there's been someone who's just...
All drama free, huh?
100% drama free.
Always.
Yes. Does this have what's in this coffee? Like, I just bought it for you. Like, yes.
Yeah, basically.
So then, okay, let's go back, because you said 18 years. So you've seen a lot change in Florida. Now, I'll also say, I know you spent a lot of time in LA as well previously, and so give me kind of, for people who are getting into the business, what you've seen, kind of a little bit of history, because I think we're in an interesting flux now over post-COVID, post-strike, streaming. I mean, so much has changed in just the past few years, much less add more time to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started in the industry, Florida was still a top 3 market. So obviously we had a lot of projects that we're shooting here. I really feel like we were almost at a point where we ran out of people to put on set, whether it was principal roles, in any capacity. Same thing with crew. I heard that a lot, like in my early years, like mid 2000s. And then you saw this huge shift of, obviously Atlanta building up the market. A lot of the very talented people that were working a lot started moving there. We were in LA. Actually, at the time that I was in LA was actually when Atlanta was getting bigger. So I feel like that was when LA first started creating their own incentives. So that was the time period that I was there. So it was actually it's an oversaturated market anyway, but it was even more oversaturated. I feel like the LA you see now has a lot more content created than we saw 10, 15 years ago, if that makes sense. So I feel like it was a heavily, heavily oversaturated market that was losing business during that time to another state. And then Atlanta, we were there for 5 years. And they said at some point it was 1,000 people in industry moving to Atlanta every single day. I mean, that is a huge number. You saw like the quality of people that came in that were just looking for representation because it was just so many people came in, such an influx of people that they didn't even get signed right away.
I,
Whereas if somebody in Florida walks in with 15 co-star credits,
you're going to
You're
take
like,
it serious.
yes.
You're like, okay, we can talk.
yeah, I can talk at 2:00, no problem. Today,
Yeah,
sure,
right.
fine, let's jump on a Zoom. Like, so it's just you see these just different dynamics, and then obviously now at Florida, I don't think we're even a top 15 market. So I'm not even sure if that's.
I know.
I forget what the number was. It's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something. Even though I see that overall, and I know we've lost a lot of big projects, and I know film is being shot somewhere else, a lot of agencies will tell you we've had our best years in a long time since like the mid or like late 2000s. Like,
Really? I didn't know that. I mean, I believe. Is it just because of the specific projects, or is it?
I think
what do you
that more content is being shot now than ever before.
That's 100%, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
all around.
All around, like
For
whether
sure.
it's social media, whether it's, I mean, we really work on anything that makes sense. So I don't want to work on something if it could be a great budget. I might not want to work on it just because the content doesn't agree with us. Or sometimes we'll work on really awesome projects that maybe the rates aren't that high, but we love what they're doing. Right. So I think there's a lot of that now. I see a lot of, I love what they're doing. And that's post-pandemic.
that's I think that's interesting because, as you said, I go back and when we're looking at history and you say we'll call it just 20 years ago, you could not set up something like this with all digital, everything. It was film, or the barrier to entry to produce a product, and then the rails to get it out there, which is the distribution game, has dramatically changed as well. So as you said, I think we have a lot more content, and that can be good and bad because a lot more content doesn't always mean better content. And
Yeah.
like you just said, now it's something that, everybody's like, only if it interests me. Because I think what's also happened, and this might also weave us into the incentives and all that. I don't think it's a business that's based, everybody wants to base it on dollars and cents. Well, if you're an accounting side, you come from the dollars and cents. If you're a marketing standpoint, you're looking at the upside and all that. And if you're an actor, you just want a good role. You want a meaty role that you can really portray. And when all those things kind of collide, then you can get something that works. But when everybody's just trying to do it from a different angle, I think that's when the just oversaturation. I don't know. I'd love your thoughts on.
I have so many thoughts on that. And I have friends that will say it this way and hopefully they'll watch this podcast so that we can argue about it later.
Good.
But
Yes. In the comments below, get fiery.
Yes, please. But I think I would love to have incentives. I do think that we have the talent here. I do think that, we did this very successfully when we did have them here. I don't think it's a reality at this point. They're mostly now locally driven. So each county has now their own. Miami just launched an amazing incentive program. Broward launched theirs right before the strike, so it didn't get a lot of eyeballs because it was
Bad timing. But yes,
it was a week before. But Sandy just put this back out, and it's really, it's a great start to bringing productions back here. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at their incentive program. It's actually pretty good looking. So we love what we see. Do I think that a lack of incentive should prevent people from shooting? No, because I also think that, LA is also a lot more expensive to shoot. There are a lot of places that are a lot more expensive to shoot than. I think that, if you really want to create your project and you want to have the backdrops and you want to have the talent, you'll figure out a way.
Right.
And there's a lot of money in Miami. A lot of crypto people moved here. A lot of businesses from San Diego moved here. I mean, there's money here.
Yes, there is.
So we can find money. Don't blame the lack of activity on incentives.
I agree. And I think, and going on to that, if you look at it, obviously Atlanta, everybody said, oh, we're moving there for the incentives. Okay. And then you just talked about LA. And I think when you want a shot, and that goes back to who's controlling the project. Is it the visionary? Is it the director that they hired to put in there? Or is it it's the making of podcast number 14. And you're just like, it's just a money investor game, and there are very few places like Miami. I mean, I live here. I'm in LA. I mean, I kind of bi-coastal, back and forth, and now in Japan a lot as well, working on projects. But the reason I mention that is you go to those locations specifically for that scenery, that element. And when people watch it, it's proven. When they watch and they see it on TV, they go, oh, I want to go there. I want to see that. So that's where sometimes I just have to shake my head and be like, why aren't there incentives? Why are there incentives? There's so many variables, but I'm thinking as a content creator, that's not my end. That's not where the project starts and stops, and it shouldn't be. And I'd love
To me, that could be an added bonus. You don't produce it somewhere. You shouldn't produce it just because of incentive, because then it's just a money game
right.
from that side of it. But if you want to tell your story, I mean, there are some great programs out now. I mean, once you have your story and you want to figure out where to put it, and look, I'm not on your side of it, so that's not so much my forte. But I don't think a lack of incentive should keep a project from being shot somewhere. I think so many people have proven already that you can shoot great content on budgets. Small budgets, mid-sized budgets.
Oh,
we work on stuff all the time that comes out really great that we're really proud of.
Definitely. I think there's major potential in small budget projects, like just because some people have that brain and that creativity, but they just don't have the money for it simply.
But some of the most creative processes happen when you have to figure out really awesome ways to make this happen. And once you get success, then more money. It starts feeding the machine. But
Right.
I still want to do a film fund. I still remember we talked about
I remember this. Oh my gosh. I think it's a
it.
brilliant idea. The whole everybody. Yeah. And it becomes more timely. I think you were ahead of the curve and it's still ahead of it's still.
Yeah, I might still be a little bit ahead, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You heard it here, folks. There's everybody slide up in her DMs and ask her all about it. Yeah. Well, we just raised $5 million right here on this podcast for some films. So you have such a handle on it, and tell me. Okay, so let's segue, because you are specifically such a great guest because you are in so many different angles of the pieces of the business, but give me what a lot of people now who are looking at talent, somebody who's, like you said, they walk in and you sign them. What goes through kind of your head of what that means to somebody who wants to be signed?
Sure. So, so I'm going to just start with a disclaimer. We are an exclusive agency, so it's a little bit different from some of the other Florida agencies. And the reason why we did this is because we were in LA and we were in Atlanta, and we saw how the talent agent relationship is more so, I'm not speaking for all agencies, but it's more so an exclusive relationship in all the other markets. We're one of the only former major markets that does the multi-listing thing. So that's why we did it. And we really focus on people that we think we can create opportunity for. So if I think somebody can work for me 2 to 3 times a year, I will most likely not take them on.
Right.
I also don't take on talent that want to leave the other agency unless there's a real reason for it. So we vet it that way. But when somebody submits to the agency, we basically look at what they have, what they've learned, where have they studied, what's their experience level, what's their marketing material. And then we'll see if we already have 4 or 5 people like that. And I will most likely not take that person on, even if I think they could work. Right. Because we have an exclusive group. And so out of fairness to the talent that are signed with us, I'm not going to take 10, 20 multiples of the same look with a similar skill set, because I just don't think that would be fair. The only time, and with that in mind, the only time we take on newer talent with limited experience is if they maybe have a certain look. So for example, I'm just going to give an example now. Indian talent, we don't have a lot of in Florida. So if somebody comes in, even with a little bit less experience, I might be more willing to give them a chance, because we need the look.
Right. Kind of like, guys with blue goatees.
Guys, yeah, I don't have any guys with blue goatees. Well, signed.
Hang on, you guys. I'm going to be talking after we can cut the podcast now. No, it's interesting because that's what a lot of people don't realize. They were like with agencies, or they're looking around and you may have 5 guys with bald blue goatees, and I'll come in and you'll be like, well, you're the best talent out of it, but I have 5 I've already committed to, and are you going to be
been with me for 8 years?
You would exactly have a relationship. Sorry, So I think a lot of actors don't get that; they get discouraged.
They feel rejected, and then we get a nice little review. Oh, they're so rude. I'm like, no, not rude. I've said this very nicely, but it's also if I don't think that I can procure work for you, why would I take you on? And if somebody's not super excited about you, I should be your biggest cheerleader. You shouldn't have to call me to see what's going on. You should hear from me. So there are all these other things, but for us, we've really just looked at. If you look at TD, actually, I feel like we look a little bit different than some of the other agencies. We have a lot more. I don't want to say diversity in looks.
Yeah.
and what we represent. And I feel like we did this early on. We did this a commercial. I mean, Florida has been very commercial, printy for many years, but I don't think that's your Subway anymore. I don't think that's your Chewy anymore. I think they want characters or like pretty people with a character look, or it's just like it's a different vibe. And we did this early on, and about 4 or 5 years ago is when it really took off because of it.
That's great. I love hearing the trend, not trends, but how casting is changing, and well, now let's go into that with obviously the self tapes, and how do you work with the talent? So you sign someone, and what is that? That means that now you're, I'm sharing for everybody out there. What does signing to you mean, and what does it mean to them?
So once they submit, and I would say for about every 200 submissions, we have one meeting. Out of every 5 meetings, we sign 2 people. So that's kind of the ratio. If people are wondering why we haven't gotten back to someone, once we invite them in, we do a meeting. It's usually about 30, 45 minutes. We go look at their stuff. We set expectations. We basically just ask, what are your goals? And then we make sure we align. So I have a lot of people that come in, well, I only want to do, main lead roles. Like, okay.
Yeah. So does,
good luck.
Right. So does everyone. And your experiences, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But I have a really great headshot. My neighbor's friend, sister.
Oh, it's a photographer.
Dog, walker, took it. Yeah.
And it's him with the dog and with a brick background.
That happens a lot, and I don't mean to make fun of it, but it's just, or maybe they went somewhere where they were promised this kind of whatever, and then we get pictures we can't even use. And I know they spent thousands of dollars, and I'm sorry that they did, but they weren't done with guidance of whoever they were going to be working with. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so once we go over all that and we decide, okay, if we want to bring this person on, then we make them go through 180 pages, no, I was kidding, 180 pages of paperwork. Everything is very digital. They get a lot of, from us, actually help sheets. Like, here's a list of people you can go to. Here's a list of photographers. You're certainly never limited to this list. But why don't you go on Instagram and follow every one of these people, because they will highlight their work. You'll get industry news. Everybody likes to brag about things that are good on social media, so you should be following all these people. So at least it's a good list of people to start with, to kind of learn more about what our South Florida industry does, because every industry is different. We're in LA, I have this kind of headshot. Somebody's always in a tree. New York, you always have like a mesh fence, or like, and then Florida, everything is like really crisp and very colored. Yeah, everybody's like bright, green and blues, like on the ocean, holding a coconut. So everybody has their own vibe. And you go to the Midwest and you get a lot of bobs.
Oh my gosh.
Different clothes. It's just how it is.
It's so true. It's so true.
But that's what works in each region. So that's fine. So then we go over that, and then they basically have a big to-do list. And if they don't complete this, I would say within 8 weeks, they're out.
They're out.
And there's no return.
You're done.
Well, because that's already a lot of time.
You're dead to me.
Yes.
No, I'm just...
Well, by then we're like 4 or 5 hours into it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And if I do that with each talent, I can't, unless they have a valid reason at which you just call and say, hey, this happened. Can I check out? Right. No problem.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's kind of how it goes. And then we monitor. We do a lot of, about every 6 months, we do follow-up meetings. Anybody can always, any of our exclusive talent can schedule with us anytime to go over pictures, things to do, what's the next step, how can I grow? And we do a lot for TD. We have a lot of internal meetings. So we started this during the pandemic. We started doing Zoom meetings, basically, that we make available to all the talent. This can be over what should your casting networks look like, industry jargon. I'm doing 1 or 2 actually this month that are, how do you actually maximize on agency representation? Like, what can you do to get the best out of your agency representation?
That was going to be my follow-on question is what is an actor, how do they help? Because a lot of actors, I think, become very passive. They sign
they wait for the
and they
phone
just
calls.
wait for the phone call to come in like, hi, did I get anything? As opposed to how can I take more classes? How do I sharpen my skills or headshot or market? So I'd love what does a ideal actor look like on your roster?
Sure. So ideally, we'd like to see someone who updates their materials at least once a year. You always have to update your Actors Access, your casting networks, IMDb, like anywhere basically where you show up. Now, obviously, with social media, we want to see agency representation on your social. Then we'll connect it to our website so any of our clients can see your social right from your profile. I think other than that, it's just continue growing. If you're in, let's say you're already in an acting program, you go once a week, you take some, whatever improv classes, whatever else you can do, start adding skill sets. And if you know how to ride a horse, if you know how to maybe do archery, I mean, we don't get as much of it here in Florida, but we do book out of town quite a bit. In post-pandemic, the market has opened up so much to out-of-state actors that are not necessarily a resident of an incentive-driven state. So before that, at first you could book like a ton of people from Florida out of state. Once it became incentive-driven, they have to use residents in order to get the incentive
Got it.
refund or whatever you call it, the tax refund. So now we're not only trying to book people, 15 hours away, where like weather could be an issue or a flight could be an issue, but they're also not a resident of that state. So now they're more expensive to hire.
Right.
Post-pandemic, that's changed a little bit. They're all looking at like, okay, who can I get? Who's best for the job? And I feel like it's opened up a lot. There's still a lot of local only, but it's really opened up a lot. So we can book people. We just had a bunch of people on Disney Plus in Mexico, 2 consecutive years. But it was because one was a boxer, so he had that skill set. He was also bilingual, had that skill set, got shipped off to Mexico twice.
That's
2
great.
years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I know it's interesting. One of the people I know, speaking highly of you, is Tim Davis, who's a dear friend, and shout out to Tim, great actor. And I've actually, it's funny, he's produced, directed, all that. I've actually done a cameo in one of his movies, Pompano Boy. Long story short, it's nice when you hear good things about agents and different people, and he came here. And he signed with you guys, and I was like, great agencies. So I think that there's something to that. And I just kind of, I don't know if that's just a compliment, but just saying, I think that, an agent is also judged by the company they keep, right? The talent. So how do you feel that works for you in the business? And
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now that especially once we joined WIFT and so we did a lot of outreach, just like to get people into our programming. Hey, do you mind, hosting a workshop, whatever. And they were like, oh, Bianca was TDA. And then like all of a sudden it started like, everybody had good things to say. Like, it was just really great. Like, we love working with your talent. Thank you so much for having us so prepared. Like, we get these little, it was a little bit at first and then like more and more and more. And we're like, okay, because when I went to exclusive, everybody was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work in this state. That's what I was told this by everyone, including casting, has told me this doesn't work. And now they're like, oh, can I get blah, blah, blah. They get it now because they're quality, well-rounded, great to work with. If there's really a major issue, we'll remove some, or not even a major issue. If there's an issue, we remove somebody from our roster right away. Like, if it's not something that makes sense or you can explain as a normal person, done. We don't want to do that because I don't, safety first. Want to make sure everybody's having a good time on set, and we want to make sure we all have the same goal at the end of the day. But that's what I used to hear that a lot. And now we hear the opposite. Oh my God, this is so great. Thank you so much for doing this. We're glad that you guys, and it's not for everyone.
right.
It doesn't mean that somebody, just because they're not signed with us, doesn't mean that they're a bad actor or that they can't work full time. It's just not a right fit for us. And that's, I think, where people get a little bit stuck on, is because we have this whole world of, well, I should get everything. I should have access to everything. That's not how it works.
Right. And I think also kind of adding to that is when looking at agencies, I know in the past 3 years, and let me get a little more specific so everybody who's watching understands. Talk about the YA market, young audience, or YA space. Agents have switched from, and I'm just speaking in LA, 10 of the different agencies I know, the person who was at that agency had left there, they got out of the business. Another one got into and this is in the past 3-4 years. So many shuffling, you think because you see the big, sign over the door, but the person who really created that division or got those things happen is no longer involved in that agency. They're selling, AI somewhere. They have nothing to do with it. So I think having someone who's in the agency, a person, a name, something, and I give you a lot of credibility for for being able to, like you said, stay the course. And I think that builds, everybody sees it together as opposed to it just being, did this agent send me something? And that's where I think it gets hard, because you can't have a relationship and then, you're passed on to another person. Do you
100%. I think it's an industry where I think trust has been a big issue, or that I feel there's always been this vibe of somebody's taking advantage of me, or something is happening, or I just don't know what's going on. And so we've kind of been combating this. We'll let you know what's going on if something is happening here, or if there's an upgrade, or if we're working on it, like, we just communicate that. And I think that's been historically just not really done. You don't know anything until you're supposed to be somewhere. or until you have a check in hand, or what, you have no idea what's going on. And we've been fighting really hard. Number one, for proper pay, timely pay, letting us know what's going on. I mean, a lot of times when I get into ad agencies, I'm like, hey, you guys reused this again in January. It's now November. Why have I not heard from you? We just found this. Well, blah, 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 switch. I'm like, but that's technically, I don't want to use the word, but it's kind of like theft. If you're not being paid for something that they're using your image for, if something has changed, and usually they're great. I mean, it's just every once in a while we reach someone who's like, I don't care. And then we really have to get somebody involved. But I feel like that's been such a, what do you want to call it? Like a muddly, thing. Like you just don't know. Like I feel like it's very foggy. People just don't know, what are your rights? What can we ask for? What can we actually do, opposed to what the final result is? Sometimes people get frustrated and they don't see. Like I worked on an upgrade for a cruise line and it took me 2 months and they gave us a kind of a crappier offer. I was like, no, guys, this is not okay. So I'm like, just be patient. Well, I need the money, but please just be patient. So instead of 1,000, we got them 10,000 each. That's a lot of money. And
from 1,000 to 10,000.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, just be patient. Let me work on this. I know you need it, but let's just please like do this. And it took us almost 2 months. And it's not really that they weren't willing to work with us. We had to explain to them why. On the ad agency side. On the talent side, I had to explain to them why we have to wait. It's as important.
Yeah.
You're gonna short sell yourself. If you
Everybody
don't-
looks at it from their perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being transparent with your actors
Yes.
and having a very open communication with them.
But still also safeguarding our clients. Like it has to go like finding that balance. Yeah.
Jade.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can hope for as an actor. Just transparency, just good
And it
communication.
just historically hasn't been there. And I was
No.
on the talent side for many, many years. And I wish I would have known half of what I know now, because it would have just been a whole different flow of working in the industry. And that's what we're trying to combat, and just standardizing what you have rights to. And I feel like we're really still, unless it's SAG-AFTRA, you're very unregulated. And even with SAG, they can only do so much.
What? How would you give advice then, knowing? How do we say this? Coming out of post-pandemic here, and a lot of agents dropped talent because there wasn't work going on, or there was a lot of people on their roster who just weren't working. Where do people fit? What's your thoughts on that and where things stand?
Well, we keep a tight roster. So if you're not performing, now, if you are a unique character, and we had that conversation from the beginning and we knew there wasn't going to be opportunity all the time, then that's fine. If you're not performing and we don't see any improvement and you're not coming to any of our workshops or like reaching out to see what's going on, we drop. We did the same, unfortunately, post-pandemic. We dropped a lot of people from our roster, and I don't regret a single day.
That's great.
I got a little bit of backlash for it. Social media can be an animal. When 100 people get let go at the same time, several days in a row, that can get pretty heated. But you have to remember, this is a business. This is not my hobby. Everyone who's on my team, most of them are parents. We all have to make money. So we're not here to hold hands and be friends all the time. Would I like to be friendly and friends? Sure. Totally. And I want to work with people, like I said, that I like. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And I've even removed people that I very much like.
Happens.
Like I would love to go to dinner with them. I just cannot represent them.
Right.
And that's just it. Work is work.
It's work.
It might be a different work industry, but it is still work. It's still your job. It's still what you have to do to provide.
And you have to come toolkit, and you have to continue growing, or we're not the place. Doesn't mean that you can't be successful then somewhere else.
Right. No, absolutely. There's different homes, different. Well, now that's a great question, or a great kind of what you just said. When you say be successful somewhere else, tell me kind of what the divides you see in kind of whether the space.
So we, especially recently, we're getting obviously a lot of children in that are on YouTube, or where their parents are, we have a momager or dadager, which is totally fine by me, but they have their channels, and then every single time we say, well, we don't think this is right because of it, but we have this YouTube channel. You know what? You need to do your own thing. Please do not look for another agent. Maybe get somebody who sells your content, but that's not us. You're not even open to coaching. You just want to do what you want to do, which is totally fine. That is why you have these outlets. You can be on Insta, you can be on YouTube, you can do your stuff on Pinterest, wherever you want to show up. But my role, the definition of my role can't change because of what you do on your own time. My role is still my role, and we stay in our lane. And we've done it before where we try to, oh yeah, this looks really good. That looks really good. Disaster. We stay in our lane. And I'm totally open to new things. I don't mind that. But it's just if you have a YouTube show and you want to go into commercial acting, sure, we'll talk about it. But if you want to now tell the set what to do, you know this as a producer, like, or director, like, you know,
It doesn't look good on the talent. It doesn't look good on
me.
you.
I know.
And
they don't get that because now all they see is a taken opportunity. And it's just not that.
Let me help you out here because one thing I love calling out, the more flaming I get, the happier I am, is the parents. I think, yes. And I like how you try to stifle. We're going to get to that camera angle.
The look in your eye goes,
I can't flinch and go, yes. But the parents are a nightmare, the momagers and all this. And I think what makes it even, it's like, it's a catalyst that just it makes it explosive is some success in some vertical. And I am so fortunate to know a bunch of social media or content creators, whatever, and they're very flexible. But there are a lot, I'm going to say the majority, go ahead, flame me, they start out with, like you said, like we were talking earlier, any technology. So they can take their iPhone, they can film themselves, and they get all these views and the likes, and now they're punch drunk. They're like, I am the shit. I'm the best. And so now I'm going to go call Bianka at the big agency, and she's going to sign me. And I'm going to walk in the door and then they find out that business works very differently than the mainstream casting, all that. Because when you show up on the set as a director, I'm telling you what to do. And you know who's telling me what to do is the agency that's paying for the commercial that wants it. So you have no say would be a lot. Yeah, and then the parents, like you said, and then here's the helicopter parent who's like driving everybody crazy on the set. It happens, I would say 80% of the time. And if you're the one going, no, that's not me, it's 100% you. But so how do you see, and the reason I'm bringing this up and really cause a firestorm here in the comments is that how do you see the industry more or less? Because I think social media is interesting because they're trying to get, some have managers, some of the big ones, and the big ones I believe are flexible and they're malleable. And I know some of them, and they're dear friends of hers and Luke's and the family. But there's that, I don't know what it is. It's that little bit of success as opposed to where it's that. And I'd love your thoughts on kind of what you're seeing. Is it more popular? Are you getting more people on social media who are going, I want an agent, or is it? Or where do you see the space going?
Well, I see the space going into more content being produced by individuals. Definitely. I think that's, micro influencers, obviously, that's been a big thing. We do get actually I would say, because we track this every year. So we've doubled our micro influencer type projects from 2020 to 2021, again in 2022, and then again last year. It's still not a huge chunk just because they can usually go direct, like you said. I mean, that's just
right.
And you know what? Sometimes they should. I mean, I'm sorry if somebody wants to pay $250 for you to do a mini video,
right,
of whatever. I don't think that's not our target market.
The price of less than this coffee.
Correct. And now if they're signed with us, then they have to obviously run it through us. But then we do that more from a protective standpoint. If now you're doing, let's say you have beautiful hair. Let's say they know an influencer program.
You weren't talking to me?
Yes, beautiful goatee. No problem. Hair is hair. So if you get contacted by someone, let's say you put something out, and then once you get paid, that content is no longer yours. Now Oliver Lake does a big casting here, exclusive only for 1 year. Now you have to disclose that you just did the social media spot for $250, and you have no control over how long it's going to run. Mm-hmm. They may opt to not use you, and that has happened to us. It was not fun. I cried a little bit, one eye only, this one.
Right.
And it was just like, oh my God.
Single tear.
Yeah, it was a big sad contract. And and that just happens. And that's where I'm like, ugh.
Right.
But the momagers and datagers that are involved in that industry, a lot of times I just think they just don't know, and with all best intent, try to guide the children through this. But leave the professional work to professionals. And then there are some good momagers too. I'm going to have some of my team with kids that we work with that I adore. But they are flexible, humble, hardworking.
Yeah.
They want to definitely promote their children, but it's not this. I don't get the feeling that they're going to get like sugar water just to like stay hyper all day.
Oh, right. Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think that's happening. I hope not.
I had Carlos from Universal Casting on, and we.
I have to watch that episode.
Oh, he and I went at it in a good way. We
Yeah.
tore. Oh, I love Carlos. And
Yeah.
we were just like.
I'm sure
and
there's
when
a
the
lot of
parents show up,
honesty.
yeah. No. Well, normally this is shot at night, and we were drinking.
Oh, gosh.
90% of these
Oh, I
podcasts
see
are
how
shot
this
with
goes.
cocktails.
Okay.
Well, you're the busy one. It's very true. She was very, very busy. So
I'm doing dry
so
January, so I
happy.
can't anymore.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Me too. Starting right now. Last night there was a band filming in here, and there's some wine. You
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
I digress. I'm sorry, but
okay.
I think that's the thing. Like you said, is I believe it's not a malicious thing, right? It's like every parent, and you're a parent as well. My kid's the greatest, right? We all have that, and we should. But there's also the reality of you should listen to people in the industry who are professionals who are
Correct.
telling you. I mean, I shot a self-tape for somebody just recently who was in from LA, shot a self-tape, and then they kept continuing to tell me what, and I'm going, do you know how many thousands of self-tape? You understand? I grew up in this industry for 40 years. I'm sure you're very successful and everything you're doing is great, but just like, and it makes it a much longer process.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
You only have so much time, and it's like if you're sitting there and educating, like, ugh, right? Like I mean, and I'm like if you have, I don't know how many, whatever. You only have so many hours a day. You're a parent. I'm a parent. I have 3 kids. Like they also have. I have lives. Oh, I know you're in Colorado, but can we just go? And usually, yeah, sure. All right, let's go over it.
Yeah.
Right now.
How about let me watch? Oh, you want me to watch all 3 of your tapes
Yes.
and your castings and what the best performance is? Sure, I got nothing else to do,
Yeah,
right?
can you watch my tape and give me feedback? Which I think to some extent, if you're not booking or if something is going on, definitely we should watch your tapes.
Right.
And
Yes.
see like what the feedback is. Can I now, once you start booking, watch every tape from here on out? No, I don't even download them because everything went to self-tape. And so what happened basically is our workload tripled. And during COVID, it was especially hard because it was like now I'm like testing people, not me, but like scheduling testing, replacing the ones that tested positive, watching all the self-tapes. I mean, it's unrealistic to expect that. Just like these 5-minute self-tape requests, like where you get like 19 pages for a commercial and you're like, okay, this is not. And I feel like everybody's kind of pushed back on that a little bit now. And we're finding our groove. So you
That's
get
great.
like self-tape requests that I think that are reasonable.
You also have the whole other aspect. You have to go out and generate the business for these people.
Correct.
So it's not
And that's
just
really all I like to do.
right. I was going to say you got to go find the directors and producers and the ad agencies that are hiring the talent. So there's that, and if you don't do that, then there's no work to
And there's no work. Correct. That's what we try to tell them. Please, if it's an important question, absolutely, by all means, ask me, text me, call me. If it's for now, if it's for the next week, email me.
Right.
If it's a silly question that maybe you can ask in our like Facebook group, we have a private Facebook group where everybody's like, hey, I need a reader, or hey, is anybody else booked on this thing in Orlando? And they carpool. And it's a very active group, which has been really, really
That's
amazing.
really cool, actually.
Yeah, we made it private, so it's only TDA members.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so maybe do one for
Yeah.
do one for yours. But and people are super super active. It's a lot of ask, a lot of give. But then also, and then sometimes it gets really busy, and sometimes you don't see anything on there for a while. But it just depends on what the current mood is in the industry. But we also like anytime we have workshops or somebody else is doing workshops, we just post it on there and people can go to it directly. It's like an information exchange basically. But I think all those things are like super important. Again, but it goes back to community.
Yeah.
That's
and that's really-
absolutely. Well, and that said, it probably, I like to say this, a rising tide lifts all ships. So the better your talent gets, the better it is for you.
Correct.
So how do you then, for people that are watching and, which is a very diverse group. So as I'm finding out from my analytics, it's everybody. What I think is interesting is to make a successful agency, what are the qualities of an actor? Other than, yes, they have to be great performance and fit the look. What are those people who are actors who want to pursue it? What do you look for in them?
It's so hard to say. I mean, we try to narrow because I'm part of another PR group and they have an avatar. And like every month they change their avatar and that's who they're targeting that month. I was like, what's a TDA avatar? And I was like, oh God, there's no specific thing. I think when we look for, we look for people that literally have, like even in their email already, I can usually tell if I'm going to like them or not. It sounds so bizarre, but after you've read so many, after I've read so many, I get a submission. I can see kind of whether I think I'm going to like that person or not. Then I look at what they look like. Then I look at what their qualifications are. And then when we interview people, really what it is that we're looking for is longevity. Now, do I mind you moving to LA to further your career? No, obviously that's the bigger market. I would never keep anybody from going. Sometimes we'll keep them on our roster. Sometimes we won't. And then again, people get upset when they're not. But I'm like, if you're only booking to us 2 or 3 times in Florida, it doesn't make any sense to try to book you from out of state. But we really just look. I don't know. We were looking for a certain energy, and we find it more often than not, which is great with the group that we sign.
And that's great.
But it's really longevity. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
You're not going to be the next big star for next year only, and I'm not really interested in putting a bunch of like effort into someone who's only going to be there. I mean, the people really come to us and like, hey, blah blah blah, I'd love to sign with you. I heard so many great things, blah blah. But I'm moving to LA in 6 months.
Why are you even trying?
What am I supposed to do with this? But I can book so many jobs with. I mean, but it doesn't make sense like that. Then I need to take someone else that has similar qualifications as you do, that I'm going to work with for the next 10 years. And they might also move in 6 months, but they didn't intend it to.
Yeah, it is a challenge. And you get put in an interesting space. And I'll go back to the feedback you said, because it made me think of the investment of time. I had Lauren Corey, who's a dear friend, who's a casting director, and we were talking. She just casted a big project, and I think, what did she say, 12 or 13 pages, thousands and thousands of submissions for these these roles, and she watches them all. But then imagine all the people you would send. She's going to now call you as the casting director back with all the feedback from it doesn't. Everyone's like, did I get any feedback? I'm like,
unrealistic expectation.
You did not. Neither did anybody else.
Well, but that's the downside, I think, of a post-COVID world, though, because, I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. You know every casting director here. In person, you know probably their kids' names, their dogs' names.
Yeah.
So anybody coming into the industry now maybe will get a direct email from them with actual details for the booking. And that's the only interaction there is now. So you don't get to do this like, hey, let me actually awe you with my amazing personality, or do you know what I mean? Like
that's 100% what I miss the most about in-person I loved in-person casting. Yeah, just being there and having something to go off of instead of just.
I mean, Carl is especially good. Like makes you redo things if he doesn't like the like, or if he's like, hey, this would be better, and he's very good about that. I've seen him many times with my kids in the room. It's great that you can now widen your net so much, but you are totally missing out on any of that relationship, because they already know you. So you don't have to, at this point, prove yourself to any casting office. But any newcomer coming in post-COVID, they might not, I don't even think half of them know what the casting directors look like.
Yeah.
Like if they went to a big networking event, they'd be like, okay, who's here? Like,
it's true. Yeah. Well, that's why it's valuable to be watching this and stay tuned, so you can find out who's who and what do they actually do when you walk in the room and you're just like, We're going to color code our upcoming events now for 2024. All of our events are going to be color coded so that your name tag will already show what industry you're in. That's a great idea.
That's what we learned last year.
I need to come. I say this. Your sisters invited me, and I'm honored to be invited. Every single time we've been out of time, I'm like, the timing. So there will be one where we make it. So there will
be a Victor Nappe event. We'll create it around his schedule. Invite all industry professionals to make sure that we get that one picture we can put on Instagram.
I love you. That's so sad. Oh boy.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just gonna hold on a minute. That's as low as it goes.
But I think it'd be awesome. But yeah, no, for sure. Listen, we have like a full slate of events for this year. We're super excited.
Yeah, you should be. I love what you're doing. And I actually filmed a project with Lou Simon, one of her movies that got picked up in Deadline, and we filmed it during COVID. She's one of the female directors from, actually, an amazing story. Came from Cuba, here, became an attorney, does a bunch of different, I dare say, direct-to-video movies was a term, but they're good. They're great, honestly. And she's somebody I would love to get more involved in.
I was just going to say, connect to her, please.
I'm
so
going
she can
to.
do maybe
She's coming on here because we're going to talk about the movie. It's called 73 Minutes. It's on Amazon. And actually, we filmed it during COVID, and it's a crazy project. And
That's awesome.
it got written up in Deadline, and I want her to come on with the star. I'm going to let you guys
You
look it
should
up.
do a workshop for us.
It would be
You have
great.
the perfect
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
I'll bring the chairs.
Absolutely. Well, 100%. And Louis, she's amazing. I love her because we both go at it like this.
Yeah.
But we both have mad respect for each other. So it's funny when she called and she's like, will you shoot this for me? I'm like,
Yeah.
I did the one eye. So like you and I are going to, and we literally spent the whole, I'll let everybody see. But anyway, I digress.
That's
But I
awesome.
just love seeing that the dynamic, because it's the different storytelling angles, and it's great. So I love what you're doing, and I'm 10,000% of support of it, and I want to help. And hopefully this podcast, we get more word out and get more people coming and being more involved in it. What's the one question that because you've been doing the podcast circuit, I found out as you walked in, and that being said, what's the one question that you've been waiting to be asked and you haven't, and information you need to share?
I don't know.
Come on.
I think that the one question, or like the one thing that kind of gets skipped over a lot, I think just in the industry, I feel like sometimes agents are not regarded as people, like real people, because we email a lot and text a lot. Like, you're
really here. I swear, I can. Everybody, look! I can reach out and touch her.
No,
This is not AI.
It's sad but true.
it is, and I get a lot of like, oh, well, you don't understand. Like, my child is sick. I'm like, okay, I have 3. I get it. I mean, but like nobody even. But you just become this. You become this vehicle of. We're dream makers, right? So I think producers and directors even more so, but we are dream makers. We're the gateway from like nobody knows you to maybe now getting opportunity. And I think the question that I wish was asked more is, what is our motivation behind, for example, being a dream maker? Like, why do I do this? Why do I do it the way that I do it? So there are some of those kind of questions I think that sometimes would be good to come out.
What is it like to be a dream maker and be a real person at the same time?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you for one thing, the absolute most amazing thing to me is when I see somebody in a submission, and I can't tell you who it was. We saw somebody in a submission to us, and I was really excited about her. And she just flew to London for 10 days to work with one of the biggest celebrities in the world. And she already had talent before. I mean, we didn't completely develop her. I do believe she has a Spanish agent as well. So we like made a little thing for that, but we adore her. And there's just like, that's what I was talking about before, the vibe. She's one of our biggest bookers at this point. I mean, we have a couple others that are on the screen there, but like that's my why. And if, being a real agent, just remember we're people.
Yes. Oh.
So if I don't get back to you at 6 a.m., I'm sorry.
You have other things going on
suck.
then. Right. Yeah. I was pinned 2 days ago. Have you heard it? I will let you know.
I emailed you at 5:30. Why haven't you gotten back to me? I'm like, because I'm at a soccer field. And I do work on a soccer field, but like, let me check it, like whatever you're asking me. Anyway, but that's kind of the thing, like that everybody, we're all real people.
Yeah.
Producers, directors, casting offices, casting agents, talent agents, just like you are a real person. We're real people too.
Right. No, it's very true. All right. I could keep talking. I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry. Speaking of being real people, she has to pick up her children. So we're making a child wait by extending. There'll be part 2. But
Awesome.
Bianka, thank you so much for taking the time to come all the way to Miami.
It's our annual meetup, except for we skipped like 4 years.
I know, but it's there was COVID and all. We'll be back. And Jade, thank you as always. And all of you, thank you. Great comments. Who knows what everybody's going to tag us in. I've getting random comments. I love it. I love it. I love it. And what can you share? Obviously, they can go to your website.
Yeah, sure. So to reach us, you can find us on talentdirect.com. If you go on our Instagram, there's our link tree as well as on our LinkedIn. We're super active. I mean, you can check out we have a lot of how-to and what not to do on Pinterest, a lot of like mood boards, and you can look for all kinds of information on there. We've tried really to put a lot of content out. And other than that, I mean, Women in Film is womeninfilmfl.org, and then Film Florida is filmflorida.org. Awesome. If you want to get involved, and if you have anything that if you think of a collaboration, you want to host a workshop with us, or want to do a movie screening, whatever it is you want to do, reach out to me. And all my information's on any one of those sites.
Great. We'll put them. Yeah, we'll put the links below so everybody can check it out.
We're always open for collaborations. That's my favorite.
The whole business collaborative.
Yes.
Well, everybody, thank you for watching. Bianka, yay! Oh, we're getting applause. Yay!